Ravenshade, England 1983. The town of Ravenshade was a medium-sized town where the townsfolk on the whole were easygoing. Ravenshade was situated in the southern far end of Yorkshire. There was a young boy that lived in Ravenshade. His name was James Mayflower. Because everyone in Ravenshade was mostly kind and friendly, James never got teased about his surname. James had long ash blonde hair and blue eyes. Although James was kind and polite, he was at times naughty. However, he was never overly naughty. James lived with his Aunt Mary. Sadly, James's parents had both died. They had died in a hotel that was burnt down when the room that they were staying in, mysterious, caught fire. Mary was the only relative James could go and live with. Mary was James's mother's sister. James had a weak bladder, unfortunately, and as a result, he had to wear nappies. Aunt Mary was a bit eccentric. Every now and again, she made James wear baby boy clothes, ones that fitted him. They lived at No. 51 Windmill Lane, in a two-bedroomed semi-detached house. The house was a part of a nice rural housing estate, which was only a car drive away from Ravenshade Hall itself. Ravenshade Hall had a long, deep history. It was the ancestry of the Ravenshade line, which was how the town had gotten its name from. The Ravenshade name had once been a noble family line, though somewhat mysterious. Sadly, over the years, the Ravenshade name became tainted. A dark, sinister mystery hung over the great manor. There had been a mysterious fire that had almost burnt down Ravenshade Hall to rubble. Not much was left apart from the odd few walls that had been left still standing. A group of people had spent many, many years raising funds to get Ravenshade Hall rebuilt in part, and fully restored. As it was, Ravenshade was turned into a stately home that was open to the general public. Mary had been kind enough to take James to go and visit the famous ancestral home of the Ravenshade family line. A group of people, mostly tourists, had gathered at the entrance. The guide was a young woman, wearing a suit jacket, pencil-short skirt, who wore thick-rimmed glasses, and had her hair in a tight-fitting bun. The woman looked more like an estate agent than a tour guide. She came out to greet everyone at the entrance to Ravenshade Hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, oh, and children too, of course," remarked the woman in a rather condescending tone. "Welcome to Ravenshade Hall. Now if you all could follow me please and do not touch anything." The woman also sounded very authoritarian, which made James cringe a little, as his aunt sounded pretty much in the same way. The tour guide began to lead the group through the hall of the manor, which its walls were lined with black marbled statues. There was various displays encased in security glass cases. Others were fenced off by railed ropes tied from end to end. The tour guide took everyone from one display to another. She would stop and give a lecture on each one. Soon enough, James became bored and he would not keep still. Aunt Mary soon became cross with him. "Will you stop that fidgeting?" "But Aunt Mary, I'm bored," remarked James loudly. Suddenly everyone turned to face James and Mary. Aunt Mary looked at James crossly. She then grabbed James by his arm and turned to face everyone in the group. "I am ever so terribly sorry about this, everyone. I will need to take my nephew back home." Quickly Mary dragged James out of Ravenshade Hall. As she got him outside, she turned James around to face her, as she held him firmly by his arms. "James, how could you embarrass me like that? You have done this way too many times now, James. You now leave me with no other choice but to take you out in public dressed as a baby girl." "What? No. Aunt Mary, please don't do that, please," James cried. "James, you have only brought this upon yourself, so stop that. You shall go to your room in your baby boy clothes. Over the next few days I shall be buying baby girl clothes just in your size."